All right, let's dive in. Today, we're stepping into a pretty dark, symbolic parable. Think of it as a journey into a world, the Bazaar of Ruin, where an entire reality is about to be, well, systematically wiped out.
So the whole story is set in this place called the Bazaar, which, really represents an entire society, and things are changing, fast. Just look at this quote, "A dragon's crimson shadow is falling over everything." And it's not just some random darkness, it's described as a surgical and unrepentant light that's actively seeking out the last pieces of a dying world.
Okay, so let's break this down. First up, the arrival of the dragon. And we need to be clear here. This isn't just some new power showing up. We're talking about a force that casts a shadow so deep, it literally redefines everything it touches.
In this slide, wow, it just lays out the core conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got the old order. It's all about dying grace and pious souls. But on the other side, you've got this new force, defined by the dragon's surgical light and a kind of cold, worldly wisdom. I mean, you can just feel the clash, right? These are two completely incompatible realities about to collide. Now, what's really important to get is that this new power isn't just lashing out randomly. Oh no, it has a very specific target. Anyone still clinging to the values of that old, fading world. The text calls them the pure and narrow souls. And they're not just being pushed aside, they're being identified for a very specific and pretty terrifying purpose. And this brings us to the real turning point of the parable. This is the moment we see exactly how this new reality takes over. And it's not through an argument or a war, it's through a terrifying physical act of branding. Yeah, the main event here is a branding. It's called the Mark of Inferno, and it literally erupts on the flesh of the pure. The source even calls it a species of atavism, which is a fascinating way to put it. It basically means this isn't some punishment slapped on them from the outside. It's like something primal and impure is being woken up from within them. This jagged rune of impurity becomes a physical sign that their very soul has been recategorized. In this process, it's so methodical. It's not just a chaotic judgment from on high. It's a systematic, almost biological process. First, they're identified as narrow and pure. Then, they're branded with that species of atavism. And finally, that brand becomes an anchor, permanently tying them to this new lower state of being. So here's the kicker. This mark, it isn't just a punishment. It's a philosophical statement. It's the final critique, as the text says, of their entire way of life. It's basically a declaration that their piety, their resistance, none of it matters anymore. It's completely invalid in this new world. So you have to be asking, who is behind all of this? Who is running this brutal new order? Well, now we get to meet the architects. And this is important. This isn't just chaos. This is a deliberate, intricate design put into place by new lawgivers who operate with a logic that is, well, it's terrifying.
First up, there's this figure known only as the Tarantula Preacher. And notice that. He's not a king, not a general. He's a preacher. That tells you right away that this is a battle for the very soul of the bazaar.
And what's his job? He's the inscriber. But look at how this is phrased. He scorns the holy to create the sinner. He isn't just going around punishing people for things they've already done. He is actively rewriting the entire moral code to make what was once holy now sinful by definition. He's creating sinners.
And he's not alone. Alongside him is another really key figure, the Wiccan. She represents a totally different kind of power, one that's not just part of this big change, but is actually feeding off of it, thriving in the chaos.
I mean, look at this. Her very existence, her transformation is validated by the fall of the righteous. The source says she literally draws strength from the ichor of their terror. It calls it a kind of gay science of the pit made physical. Her power actually grows because of their suffering. It's a truly parasitic relationship.
Okay, so we've got the new law and we've got the lawgivers. But what does this actually look like on the ground? How does it reshape society in the bazaar? Because let's be real, a law is only real if it completely changes how people live and interact with each other.
Well, the entire marketplace, the heart and soul of the society, it transforms into what the text calls a theater of the damned. It stops being a place of trade and community. It becomes a public stage for this brutal social reengineering.
And just look at the new rules of this theater. It's wild. Every single piece of the old morality gets flipped on its head. The marked are totally isolated. The crowd, the worshippers, they now crave the void.
Former saints are now the ones hunting down the impure. And this one is the most chilling. Mercy itself is turned into a weapon, a cruel and surgical scorn. This is their Untergang, a complete downward going, where being virtuous isn't just wrong anymore, it's heresy.
And that brings us to the endgame, the completion of this dark design. And what we see is that this isn't some temporary phase of chaos. No, this is the establishment of a new, permanent reality, one that is built, quite literally, on the ruins of the old one.
This quote says it all, really. We are the heirs of the abyss, and the marked are the stones upon which we build our night. So the critical point, and maybe the most disturbing one, is right there. The suffering of the condemned isn't just a side effect of this revolution, it is the foundation. The marked are the actual stones being used to build this new glorious night. Their pain is structural.
And so, the new power is now absolute. Its very presence is anchored, held firmly in place by the pain of those it has redefined and condemned. It's created this unbreakable cycle where its own power is fueled by the misery it enforces. And with the web pulled tight and the first sentence inscribed, you might think the transformation is done, but the story is far from over. The text declares that this isn't the end, this is the beginning of the harvest. The system is now in place, and it's just getting started.
And this whole parable really leaves us with a truly provocative question, doesn't it? It shares just how fragile values can be, how easily they can be unmade and remade. So in a world that has completely inverted its moral compass, a world where purity itself is now a sin, how do you even begin to define something like goodness or justice or freedom? It's a chilling thought to leave you with.